out there. We're trying to stream to all broadcast platforms and all social media to let everybody know what's going on. So bear with us for a moment while we test and validate that this is streaming. If not, we're going to have to restart this session and kick it out. So if you are hearing this, we are going to take a moment here, wait for people to come in, and then we will get started. So apparently we do have confirmation it is streaming on X. That would mean it's probably streaming on LinkedIn. That would mean it's probably streaming on YouTube. We are going to wait for people to start showing up. So we've got about, I don't know, we'll give everybody about 5 minutes. Hopefully there were some notifications sent out and we can get started. So it's been an exciting day, and we're excited to share with you all everything that's been going on over here at PKGX and at the Tea Association. But we want to make sure we address all questions at once. We want to make sure we disseminate information in a structured format to make sure that everyone is getting the correct information from the people that are bringing you the Tea protocol and Tea network. So we'll get into those conversations in just a few moments as we let some people filter in. Does anyone have any jokes? Gav, you got any jokes over there?
No, mate. But thanks for putting me on the spot. Appreciate it.
Noah, no, you've got jokes. You're a funny guy.
I don't know about jokes, but I have a dad story. I took my kids on a hay wagon ride. For the first time, all bundled up in coats, and it's a little janky. So I leaned over to them and I said, if you think you're going to fall, and I paused, and I said, don't. And they laughed so hard they almost fell off.
Cute, man. We used to have wagon rides at my farm that I grew up in. So we always used to hold like a fall-based like hay wagon party when we were kids. Really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun taking kids on track. Was it tractor driven?
Oh yeah, it was a whole experience. They had a corn maze, the pumpkin patch, and the tractor-driven wagon ride.
Awesome. Looks like we've got Instagram Live as well. So it looks like we've successfully broadcast live to all platforms. And I think we're ready to get started. We have executed the token generation contracts today. We want to tell you a little bit about the process that led us to getting here, what that means, and then the next steps in the evolution of Tea. So first, I wanted to start with a legal statement. None of this is financial advice. We are still building this out to putting this together. We're going to get more structured things in order as we get ready for our listing. And we wanted to make sure that you were all getting the correct information about what this is, but we will be publishing those things directly on our website. The association will be publishing them to make sure that you are aware of what Tea is. So I want to do some introductions first. I'll just start with myself. I'm Timothy Lewis. I'm the CEO of PKGX. PKGX Inc. is the development company that was founded to help build the Tea protocol. Max Howell and myself founded the organization in 2021 with the dreams and hopes to change the outcomes for many open source software developers around the world, giving them the opportunity to be incentivized and be able to work on open source software full time. Being able to accelerate open source to making sure that open source is more secure and using on-chain mechanisms to secure open source. I myself have been a security engineer most of my life, developer, entrepreneur. I got involved in cryptocurrencies around 2012, 2013, but had been exposed to them earlier. Started using cryptography with PGP in the early 90s. I've always loved security and always loved the financial industry. I worked for a number of major banks helping do expedited trading, working on fixed protocol and data expedition for most of my early career, and the security and infrastructure behind that. So I fell in love with crypto, with Bitcoin, with Ethereum, getting involved in the Olympic network for Ethereum, and subsequently spent the last 12 years of my life building out different platforms and launching different assets, as well as building a hedge fund to trade crypto assets, ikigai.fund, and have worked throughout different projects throughout the last 12 years. Excited for the day to where everyone goes on chain, becomes their own bank, understands financial sovereignty, and we can use these chains for the other interesting aspects that they might develop and create. So Max is a dear friend of mine. Met him about 12 to 13 years ago or so in Chicago. Needs really no introduction, but since he's on here, Max, you want to tell the people who you are?
I went to running in, well, actually, I got 6 things that my dad taught me. I never thought it was quite fun for me looking like games and things, but when I done my chemistry, it's going to be like.
Hey Max. Hey Max. Unfortunately, the connection is really jittery. We'll get back to you. I'll do your introduction.
I installed this on computer. I know some code. Yeah.
So
Okay.
Max, it's the connection's just bad. I know you're on the road, and we'll get back to you. Hopefully, you'll get somewhere a little bit more stable. Max Howell, lifelong developer. His father had encouraged his development at a young age and started developing it at the age of 6. He was intending to be a scientist. What was it? Chemistry? Was it just, do you remember, Jacob? Yeah, he got his master's. Didn't he go through his master's process through that?
I don't remember which degree.
I did.
He did, yeah. There you go. Thanks, Max. But he hated working in chemistry and liked working on his computers like all the rest of us. And ultimately started his love and fascination for open source. I think the late 90s, early 2000s. I believe he started working, I forget which distro of Linux he caught himself up on early on, but got super involved and started contributing towards the open source world and community, and then started working in the real world, working for a number of different application platforms, TweetDeck being one of them, Last.fm being one of them. But he was dared by a number of his friends to fix the package management mess that was Mac OSS, that was Mac ports at the time, and his solution to that was Homebrew. The Homebrew went on to being the most widely contributed open source software ever. It is one of the most widely used open source platforms and softwares that exists. It is used by our records and understanding probably 100 million or so plus people that are using it to help them develop the applications that we all use in our everyday life. If you're using anything in really all ecosystems now, but back then primarily the Mac and Swift iOS ecosystems. But Max, was a little hesitant to join and start working in blockchain. It took me 8 years of pushing him towards trying to understand why to start working, what to use on these chains, and really a whole lot of usability advancements through the whole ecosystem. So in 2021, after he had received a grant from a DAO to describe how he would utilize on-chain mechanics if he was building Homebrew today, he had come to me with a plan of T, and he and I immediately started working on that and putting together the pieces and parts and developers and strategy to deploy what is now T. One of the first people that he introduced me to along this path is his good friend and engineer, Jacob. Jacob, you want to go into a little your history?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my story is not that different. I started programming short programs out of the back of 3-to-1 contact on my Apple IIc in Apple Basic. Gosh, a long time ago, probably almost 40 years at this point. So it's been a long time. Interestingly, I studied programming all through high school, but didn't realize I wanted to be a computer scientist until about halfway through my college career. I started with microelectronic engineering, which was sort of a burgeoning program at RIT at the time. But I end up in a math program, and then about halfway through, I'm like, oh yeah, computer science. Like, why am I not getting a computer science degree? So I ended up with math and comp sci degrees at the end, and I've been using open source, as long as it's been widely accessible. Basically, the third time that Windows Millennium Edition corrupted my hard drive during a defrag, I removed it and switched to Linux, and it's been like that ever since. I've done a million things: network engineering, software development, web development. It's all over the spectrum, but it's always, the open source ecosystems are always what make it enjoyable and make it easy and make it work. Um, so yeah,
Life is suffering, Jacob.
yeah, it really
And
is.
ultimately putting together the applications to make things easier, I think in an open way, ideally in a secure way, is what makes it better.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
uh,
And I I I after Max and Tim approached me. I believe it was PKGX's first first full time employee. But yeah, I've been here since day one, and we've been building some exciting stuff, and it's only getting better day after day.
we're happy and excited to have you. I'll keep the engineering trend going on, and let Noah introduce himself. He is really our chief blockchain architect and engineer. Noah, why don't you talk a little bit about your experience and how you found yourself in the world of developing on chain?
Sure. I'm Noah. I'm a researcher and developer. I have about a decade of experience in a very different industry. And in 2017, I did the cliche drop everything, jump in with both feet, and I've been full time crypto ever since. It's kind of funny to your question. The catalyst of me getting into crypto was my boss at the time. I was at a machine learning lab, and he asked, "Why can't I have a random number?" And he was really frustrated. He just wanted to do a little toy demo for people. He said, "On Ethereum, why can't I have a random number?" And as you head down that rabbit hole, answering it, there are very valid reasons why you can't just easily get one. And it explains the paradigm, the architecture, and the systems that we're working with, and how different they are from everything that I was used to doing. So that rabbit hole, answering that simple question, led to years, 2017 onward. Um, I stuck with EVM related things, so mainnet Ethereum primarily, and then with the proliferation of L2s or side chains or other networks making use of the EVM, there's a lot more to do out there. Spent a lot of time on smart contract design and development, so architectural things, and then the actual build and testing. Over the years, I did move more and more toward the security side of things. You kind of have to, not just as a security researcher, but also as a developer. Culminated in me working with Spearbit in 2022, I believe. They onboarded me as a lead security researcher, and about a year later, they brought me into the core team. I've since left. I spent a year with Spearbit as a core team member, and now I'm back to more freelance things. So I still work with them as a lead security researcher periodically, but I'm also freed up to do more of what I love to do, which is not just read other people's code, um, but design systems and come up with ways that we can implement different things. So when Tim and the rest of the team say we have this grand vision of what we'd like to see exist, I can put pen to paper and start designing the system, and then collaborate with people like Jacob and the rest of the team on making it a reality.
Yeah. So speaking of grand vision, along this path, the incorporated entity has gone through a couple of changes. I myself had been on a sabbatical during the 23 year of 2023 when I found myself speaking to Max over the last summer, and his request was for me to come back in and lead again the organization as CEO. To finalize some of the last steps and confirm and make sure that the vision that we started with was the vision that we were going to lead with and deploy. So rejoining the team, understanding the architecture of the incorporated identity, but also what the importance of the association and the members and the people that need to be involved with the association. For those that don't know, the T Association is a Swiss organization, nonprofit association that will govern and help maintain the ethics and help maintain the deployment of the protocol. And so when trying to understand who should lead that, I've been involved in this process many times before, but for me, the number one most important thing is to find an operator who has excellence of operation, maintains a very, very strong security level of security, and really has ethics at the root and core of their being. I had gotten to know Gavin over the last 2 years, and Gavin to me is just an unbelievable human being. And in this process of me returning, Gavin, I brought on board. We helped bring on board. The association brought him on board. I think I'd like to think I had something to do with that. But Gavin, why don't you go a little bit about your history and what you're excited about here at T?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Tim. And I think if Noah positioned himself as somewhat atypical, I am even more atypical to the Web3 space, but very excited to be here. Kind of my background, born out in project and program management around large scale technical and digital deployment. So an awful lot of work for central local government in the UK, a bunch of work for the private sector too. That led me into a role where I essentially built and ran a global consulting firm which focused on user-centered design. So that practice of really thinking about how do you make things accessible? How do you remove friction from experiences, and how do you deploy that into a digital space? So I spent the best part of 10 years running a team of researchers, of ethnographers, of the people who can study humans and really understand what it means to create frictionless and ultimately enjoyable experiences. The career then took quite an interesting turn. So this is going back to when the COVID pandemic hit. I guess I'd probably reached a point with the consulting business that I was running where I was reaching that point of going, what next? It's been an exciting journey. I've got an opportunity to work with some incredible private sector clients. What next? And when the pandemic hit, the owner of my consulting firm was well connected to the UK government, and I got a phone call one March Monday morning saying, "Can you head into Whitehall, into London? The government, frankly, is in a flat panic around how to respond to the pandemic. They're not prepared for a population-wide disease. They don't know what to do." So I was brought in to design, mobilize, and then operate the COVID testing protocols in the UK. So we built from zero sum really to a network which was capable of delivering to 1.3 million tests per day over the course of an 18-month period. And my role there was really to bring private sector operational experience to bear in the face of the pandemic. And it was an incredible journey from day one through to the end of 18 months, which covered everything from the initial deployment of in-person testing sites across the UK through to the supply chain challenges of getting hold of the rapid antigen tests, the lateral flow tests we'll all be very familiar with, putting them into prisons, into schools, into care homes, every setting you can imagine. And at its height, I had a workforce there of around 40,000 people and an operating budget somewhere north of £2 billion. So I think the reason that I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to be taking a senior role in the T Association is to bring an operational dimension to how the T token and how the ecosystem and community will build, and make sure that we really have the rigor in place to do it in the right way, to keep track of and to keep in line with the regulations as they emerge. We know things are going to change very rapidly with the incoming administration, and we need to be on our game to make sure we do things in the right way. So yeah, super excited. I guess for me, just before throwing it back to you, Tim, the thing which really attracted me and brought me in was, one, the collective talent of the core team is incredible. The depth of expertise that this team has in relation to Web3 and crypto is mind-blowing. But two, it was the use case around offering utility to a community of exceptionally intelligent, passionate individuals out there, the Web2 community, offering them something and a gateway into crypto just really caught my attention, my imagination, and excited me. So yeah, very much looking forward to taking steps forward now and pushing the token as we go into 2025.
Thank you, Gavin. And so enough of the introductions. I know everyone has been holding on. I want to go over really quick to date what we've done. Ultimately, we founded this company in 21, 22. We did raise in equity for the company. We raised nearly $18 million. And a number of very fantastic and very much appreciated investors into the core entity. Along that path, we've launched a number of different pieces of software. We launched PKGX Package Manager. We launched Chai, which is our OSS ranking tool. We recently launched T-Base. This will be the secure base for development. Along this way, we're building tools to make sure that the user experience for developers on chain is more suitable to their workflow. And we built out an application that many of you tested on Base. We launched that application on the Base testnet over the summer. We had 1.7 million unique wallet addresses. We had over 2.4 million user registrations through email, about 700,000 GitHub registered users. When I got brought back, we made the decision ultimately not to launch on Base. We decided that launching the canonical contract on layer 1 Ethereum made a lot more sense to me and to us. Being able to be carried and exchanged more on the different centralized exchanges that exist and be wider. But beyond that, with the developments that had gone on in the layer 2 networks for Ethereum, we elected to create, and we are now going to deploy our own layer 2. So this layer T is what we are going to be deploying very shortly. And the T token will not only fuel our applications that are on our network, but also the network itself with a number of different user experience changes working within the op stack to allow us, we think, to have a better experience for open source developers as they begin their on-chain journey. So as I said, we're launching the T network. We call it the open source layer of Ethereum, built for full stack incentives. So I wanted to clear up a couple misconceptions. Everyone's here and excited because it is TGE. TGE is the token generation event or execution. This is a step that has been completed, and now on our website there is a contract address as well as the Etherscan address that has our initial tokens. We initially had been planning on, when we were just launching the application, to launch with 10 billion tokens. We have adjusted our expectations. We are now going to launch with 100 billion tokens. The rewards mechanisms will not change. They were scaled up to meet in the same network percentage. So ultimately, we believe in the usage and the more free-flowing token environment that will the 100 billion allocation will provide for us. After completing TGE, which was done probably about 30 minutes ago, we have the next phase that we'll get into is the Genesis distribution and enhanced security phase. This will take us several weeks. We are using Gnosis Safe. We have very safe and secure procedures for when it comes to distributing from the token contract itself. Then will come the layer T deployment. That will start with a test net. The test net will begin on or approximately on January 16th. That will last for 4 weeks, culminating in listing day. The process is expected to take a total of 6 weeks from today, and we're aiming for a February 14th listing day. So what does that mean? Ultimately, we have to test the network still. We've got a bunch of incredible security auditors that have been working with us. We've brought on some incredible engineers and developers that are very familiar with the Optimism stack to help us deploy the network. And we'll need many of you to come and test and battle hard that. We're going to go through a number of different internal and external security audits, as well as having a number of different competitions for securing the network through that date. As for listing, we are and have been in contact with every major exchange. There are at least 5 that we expect to launch with on our listing day, and that number is growing every day. This has been a very popular application, very popular community. So we expect to be able to fill that out and be able to get to as many central exchanges as possible. But know that that on February 14th or there around, we will be launching on a number of different centralized exchanges. So the contracts have been completed. The L1 ERC20 has been deployed and is viewable. We've got legal actions and security to set up the Genesis distribution. That will occur over the next couple of weeks as we prepare to launch the testnet mid-January and then go live with the mainnet, both our applications and the network. People will be able to build on the network just as you would on Optimism or on Base or on Ethereum itself. But you'll be hearing more about the network over the next couple of weeks. This is the first announcement of the network. I know everyone here, many people here are excited. Those that have been a part of our community for a long time are excited to hear about rewards. Rewards is something that only the association can really speak about. The association from this point on really does control the network. So Gavin, why don't you quickly talk about some tokenomics and some of the reward mechanisms that we're going to be using and some of the ways that we're going to make sure that people are who they say they are to be able to collect rewards and some of the different groups of people that will be receiving rewards during the process.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tim. And I guess just to link it back to the kind of closure for me on the introduction and making sure that the T association focuses on utility first for the token. I'll talk about a few reward mechanisms that will come as we move into the new year and be managed out of the T association. So first and foremost, there's going to be a real focus on fair distribution to a large proportion of the open source community. That's absolutely fundamental to the T token and to the kind of sustainable success of what we're building here. And to bring that to life a little bit, we're looking at distributing over 50% of the network via rewards. So we are finalizing tokenomics and we'll publish some updated tokenomics in the coming weeks. But just to hopefully reassure you, that's a significant proportion that we are proposing to distribute via our reward mechanisms. In terms of the reward mechanisms themselves, the majority of those are going to be based on open source utility. They're going to be based on use of things like the GPG tool that we're launching and code commits associated with that. They'll be based on package registrations and the associated T rank, which I know a number of you will already had a look at and had a certain play with based on the releases that happened in November and December of this year. So there'll be a real focus on making sure that the distribution of the tokens, the rewards, go to the open source community. Again, back to that, what is this about? That said, there will be opportunity and reward for the Web3 and the on-chain community as well. Recognizing there'll be a number of you on the call. To that end, we're looking at around 10% of the total token pool will be rewarded out to Web3 and on-chain community. And we're going to do that via seasons. So the first season is between now and leading up to the mainnet launch that Tim just mentioned. And that's going to look at rewarding people who've been involved to date, engaged, and points on ITN. It will be around those that remain involved between now and mainnet launch. It will be around GitHub rewards, and those people are active and associated with T in relation to GitHub, and a number of other actions that will be published through social channels as we move through the next few weeks. As Tim mentioned, the total token pool is 100 billion, but the rewards will remain proportional. There will be a KYC requirement in terms of being able to access those rewards. So once people have completed the KYC obligations that we will be sharing with you, there will be a period of time where rewards or reward allocation will be shared, and people can understand how the reward distribution is going to flow to them as individuals. So as you can tell, there's an awful lot of moving parts with us right now. We've got a number of very exciting things that are going to come over the next few weeks, and we will continue to communicate through the channels that we have with this community and the community as it builds. So Tim, back to you.
Thank you. So just to reiterate, those that have participated, we very much appreciate who you are and what you've brought to the community. And the process for KYC will be explained over the next couple of weeks. During basically the testnet period of time, you'll have about 30 days to register that KYC. And then once there'll be a date where KYC for season 1 will end. If you have registered then, we will do our rewards calculations. And then there will be a checker that's placed online prior to the listing day. On listing day, the initial tokens, as they will migrate, will go to the exchanges, the market makers, and the people that need to coordinate for listings. And then we will begin to proceed with the rewards distribution for the on-chain and Web3 community, as well as the GPG signature commits and the other tools that are going to help distribute the token to the wider open source software community. So thank you for your time that you've spent with us. We expect the season 2 to begin very shortly thereafterwards with on-chain mechanics. And I will mention that those that are rewarded in season 1 to remain eligible for season 2, 3, 4, 5. The expectation will be that you remain on chain, that you continue to help us, understand the network, help utilize the network, and help utilize the different applications on the network. So that being said, we have every right over the next 6 weeks to remove those that are bad actors in our community. The bad actors come in many different forms. There were many different types of civil attacks that were attempted in our testnet. We've gone through painstaking processes to make sure that people are able to claim one account. If you have multiple accounts, do not expect to be able to claim multiple accounts. And we'll be going through different ways to make sure that we really do reduce that number of civil accounts to make sure that people who actually contributed receive their actual rewards. Also, the community in space is for those that are supportive of the community, those that want to speak negatively about the things that we're doing or processes that we have. Please do so in your own private space. Those that do so on Discord or Telegram will be removed. Ultimately, the association has and reserves the right to remove and blacklist those from rewards. All right, so on the testnet, again, we plan on launching mid-January. We expect to be measuring activity on the testnet. This is a layer 2 Ethereum network. So if you're a developer and you build a project and launch and gain traction, it will be recognized, it will be rewarded. We are launching 2 main applications. The first is the application that you're familiar with. It's staking packages for the open source ecosystem to help secure the open source ecosystem, what many of you have known as T up until this date. The second application that we're going to be hosting, I think, is a little bit geared more towards the modern experience of what is a regulatory permissible token launch, and that will be brew.fun. So brew.fun is our way to help open source maintainers that have and maintain projects that are above a 50% T rank through our Chai ranking mechanism to be able to launch meme currencies, meme tokens, meme coins to help support their own open source ecosystems. So we'll be launching brew.fun. You can sign up to hear more about it at brew.fun now, but ultimately think pump.fun with some accountability and people that are actually validating and verifying real communities that they've built. We'll plan on launching with 10 open source ecosystems that are well known and people are excited about what this is. I think that we can use memes for good. We can create community value in a number of the tools, open source tools that are used every day, whether you're using them or not. Some of these tools are critical to the infrastructure of the internet, and publicizing, being able to bring light to who these individuals in the communities are is what we intend to do with brew.fun. It is our meme coin launchpad. It will have a similar bonding curve to that of pump.fun, and ultimately, once a minimum FDV is reached, the assets will begin trading on our DEX. We have a partner that we are initiated communications conversation with about bringing one of the more well-renowned DEXs into our ecosystem for a day 1 launch. There will be other tools that will be built out specifically for our network. If you have experience in building core tools on blockchain infrastructure, let us know. We have a lot of great people in our network here, but always happy to learn about other builders that want to build and bring great tools to our network. So listing day, we expect again to be February 14th. That's Valentine's Day. We're going to launch on many tier 1 and tier 2 centralized exchanges, primarily Asian Pacific based. but we're in discussion with other regions as well. As a part of our Genesis distribution, all centralized exchange partners will receive tokens at the same time. And some will provide reward mechanics themselves. So if you're already involved in exchanges, possibly we can take some polls about what exchanges you'd like to see as the initial listing exchanges for T. But it's been a joy to be working with the exchanges and to see how excited they are to launch our asset. That's about it. There you have it. I'm going to go through some of the questions that we've gathered and collected. Hopefully we've answered and addressed most of those questions. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we're excited about. When TGE, that was today. The contract has been posted. I believe that is on our website already. If not, we'll make sure to post the link to that contract so you can view and verify that there. Yes, there are. Second question, there are updates to the Tokenomics. Absolutely, there are. We will be posting those prior to listing. We are not doing a traditional pre-sale or a traditional token sale for this network. We're going to use our OSS reward mechanisms to seed this network ownership by the community members and by the OSS maintainers that we hope will take ownership and pride in what this network is. When, why 100 billion? Honestly, it was to help in our expectation of the usage of the network. We had to understand who our community was, who we're serving, and making sure that we could, I think, value an asset at an appropriate price. We expect to have very cheap transaction costs and a number of other features that we think are better suited to the value mechanics at a higher level. When mainnet, February 14th is the expected date. That's really going to you're going to rely more about our testing during testnet, but currently expected mid-February. How does T protocol ensure the staking system does not create a rich get richer dynamic? That's been a problem for many networks, and that's something that we're going to continue to validate. We're using the optimism stack, so staking does not purely represent the value of our network, and we're going to use different incentive mechanisms for package maintainers once they have registered their packages with us. TDAO questions. So TDAO has yet to be launched, so we're not going to really get into much of the TDAO formation, but expect that over the next few weeks, we expect to launch with some of the TDAO features. The TDAO will be initially answering questions in regards to the direction of the network that are formed by the association. A lot of those will have to do with some of the reward mechanisms and the values that are distributed to those reward mechanisms and the applications that are on the network. So we'll get into that over the next few weeks. The first couple of months, you can expect more softball type questions going to the TDAO community, with the expectation over the next period of years to hand over more control to the TDAO. If T protocol faces a scenario of declining adoption or community trust, what are the concrete steps planned to revive or adapt the protocol to regain momentum? Well, it's about usage and it's about community. We're going to find out real quick, I think, whether or not we are going to be able to continue the momentum that we've had over the last year or 2 years. There's a lot of reputational risk that we've all taken, none more so, I think, in the software development community here than Max Howell, who you can now see on the call. Hi, Max. But ultimately, we've taken 3+ years of our life to build this out and plan on doing this for the next 10 years. This is something we are extremely passionate about. We think that we're going to be able to bring some value to different open source packages and different open source ecosystems. And if we can do that through some of the simpler tools like Brew.fun and some of the staking mechanisms, we think that we'll have the interest of the open source community. And if we can make this work for them, our gamble is migrating over hundreds of thousands of developers from the Web2 ecosystem into on-chain. And if we do that, this will work. So ultimately, it's about the support of the on-chain community that exists, understanding some of the mechanics, believing in some of the different communities that these open source software developers have created, getting their trust to bring their community value over to our network, and then showing them what a distributed, decentralized network of value can bring to their communities. So hopefully they'll be building the tools that make the blockchain an abstraction and bring more people into on-chain applications. So long-term strategy to prevent the depreciation of the T token value due to inflation or insufficient market demand. This is the thing, more users, the more utility, the more usage of the asset. That's what drives value into the asset. We also understand that it's about being relevant and being in the public eye and creating tools that are useful. So many tools are built without a real use. The financial uses are there for many things, and we expect that the user interfaces, the user experiences to get better. But ultimately, I want to see things like social networks that are built on top of the blockchain that people don't need to know that the underlying mechanisms are on chain, and bringing in the world's best open source developers to start experimenting is what this is all about. So ultimately, the more usage that we drive, the more experimentation that we have in our network, hopefully the market demand will be there. Is T going to be an L2? Well, the answer is yes. We are going to be an Optimism Stack L2. We hope and intend to be a great member of the Optimism community, including ideally being a part of the superchain. This comes with a lot of benefits, including shared liquidity. I've helped launch layer ones before, and some of the early tools that you have to build when you are building a layer one, they're already there and in place and ready to be adopted to the layer two. And I really just enjoy the strategy that Optimism has taken to deployment. And we're going to build out some user experience tools to make this a truly developer-friendly environment. And build out full stack incentives for all developers, not just on-chain incentives for the work that they do with their contracts. Are we planning on listing on any centralized exchanges? The answer is yes. So we finalized the number of contracts, and we've got some more to finalize. We plan on having a rather large listing day. So hopefully all of you will be hearing about it. We plan on co-marketing and publicizing those exchanges over the next couple of weeks. You'll start to hear about who is going to be carrying the T assets very shortly. When will testnet incentives be rewarded to all testers? Please confirm the eligibility criteria. So again, season one will end approximately a week prior to mainnet launch, and KYC will be expected to have been completed by that date. The mechanics itself, really, it's a factor of how many individuals we're able to determine, how many individual accounts we're able to determine, and then basing that on a mixture between their IT endpoints, their testnet tokens, and a number of different activities. So Gavin will be spreading more of the word about how that is done exactly. But ultimately, know that it is a mixture of the things that you've done, including dating all the way back to those that contributed to translation services for our white paper back in 2022. We do really want to make sure that people who have been a part of the community, longstanding part of the community, do get rewarded. So we'll be publishing that information about how the decisions were made, right before or just after the end of season one KYC requirements. Then we will publish a checker for those that want to be able to check their allocation prior towards the distribution. How does the team plan to handle bots in Sybil without affecting real users? That's always an issue. KYC is a part of that check. Bots, as we enter into the world of AI and AI agency, bots, I think, are a part of the rest of all of our lives. And some of them aren't nefarious. Some of them will hold fantastic, operations and outcomes. So really, it just depends on the type of actions that you're taking on the network. We're going to do our best to make sure that, especially during the distribution, that we mitigate the Sybil attacks. We believe we've done a great job of that so far. A lot of us have very deep history in security architecture and deployment. So we are doing our best to make sure that we are rewarding real people. How will you conduct KYC? So that is still yet to be determined. That will be determined within the next week and a half or so. We're reviewing a number of different platforms to be able to do that. So, that's the questions, I think. Mecca, if there are any other questions you want to add them to the Google Docs, please do so. I'd just like to take a moment and just thank you, Max, for bringing everyone into this. The work that you've done in open source, but also just having the accepting the possibility that on-chain could be something more than NFTs and dog coins. That there might be a real world use for some of this other stuff, and ideally, hopefully, beyond the financial architecture, which although is very important, hopefully other things will merge. And Noah, you and Jacob absolutely crush. You guys are both amazing engineers, and it's been incredible to work with you. Going through our process earlier in launching the asset, just further confirmed my trust in both of you, and being here with us has made things so much better and easier as we did a couple about faces and changed a lot of the direction of where we wanted to go over the last 5 or 6 months. And we're very excited to have you guys as a part of the community here. And Gavin, you have my utmost trust and faith in that you will hold the network to the ethical standards that I think that this requires and needs, and to run this operationally as a nonprofit for the benefit of open source is what we intend to do. And thank you for that. But it's been a long process to get here, right? This might not be the words that everyone wanted to hear. Many people want token now, but ultimately, until we have regulatory clarity on everything that we're doing, we have to double, triple, quadruple check all the things, not only the on-chain transactions and security, but all the methods in which we launch something. This is something new. We're borrowing and we're standing on the shoulder of giants, but ultimately what we're trying to do is something new. And we hope that the tools that we create will help create the pathway for hundreds of millions and then billions of people to be using on-chain mechanisms. So I'd like to thank and appreciate everyone, but also take a moment for Max, now that he's back, as long as his connection's good, to give us a few words of wisdom. Max, you're on mute. Still on mute. Still on mute, Max. You're smiling and you're laughing, but you're still on mute. I know.
I clicked the button and someone, I don't know, whatever, technology. That's part of what we're trying to do here at T, right? It's like open source is the foundation of all this terrible, terrible software that people write. But the more we improve the foundation, the more that we make open source better, like more capable, more robust, the less likely it is that I will accidentally remute myself because the technology is terrible. So yeah, that was the main reason that I founded T, as it turns out. But yeah, it's great that everyone's here today. This has been something that I've been super passionate about for a long time, like ever since I got into open source. Working in the Web3 space has made me feel the same feelings that I had when I got into open source in the first place. It's got the same people in it. Same people who are trying to fix like fundamental problems with the world. Like Web 2 felt like that for a bit, and then everyone jumped in on it, and the kind of people that worked there like changed to some extent. So working here is where I feel most at home, and what we're building is meant to bring even more of those kinds of people into this space to make it so that open source has the kind of foundation it needs. I thought the question earlier about how we're going to stop people getting richer through staking was interesting, right? Because one of the things we're trying to do is make some of these people rich who should be already, right? Like the people who've made these foundational pieces of open source that the world has built so much wealth upon, and yet they're like struggling to make ends meet without working for one of these terrible companies that we don't name. And they're the people that we want to be channeling this token to, and so that's how we will approach it. Is that we want everyone who's involved with this token to get some upside, but the people that we're trying to get some serious upside are the open source community, and it's starting to be this step closer, and that 2025 is really going to be the year where the T token takes off and proves its worth. So yeah, thank you to everyone who tuned in, and especially thank you to those of us who work at PackCheck/T for the journey that we've been on and the progress we've made to get to this place.
Well, Max, you fix the money, you fix the world. And I think that, you know, what crypto assets allow us to do is have the freedom of expression of value. And now what we hope to do is be able to assign value to open source in a more meaningful way. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We will remain obviously on all Telegram chats tonight, Discord, etc. I've been very active in both Discord and Telegram, and happy to answer further questions now that everyone knows what's going on. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you PKGX and the T Association for hosting this. Thank you T Association for launching and approving the final contracts for our TGE. And everyone have a happy new year. May 2025 be the best year ever. Everyone have a great day. Bye-bye. Okay, we're no longer live, I think. You still there? Okay, I don't know if we're still live or not, so I'm going to leave this call. That's what I'm going to do. Goodbye.